Welcome to the Profitable Husband Podcast, where we explore the untold stories of men building empires with their partners. My name's Willow Kai. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the Profitable Husband Podcast, you guys. Today, I have a very special guest. Actually, no husband at all, but a very good friend. Alexis from The Shift Creative. For those of you guys who don't know Alexis, will you bring us back to the start of where did The Shift Creative start? Who are you? What do you do?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm Alexis with no husband.
Let's go.
This could also be like a dating
I know.
thing. I'm single. No, I started The Shift Creative, which is a creative studio, over 10 years ago. So actually coming up like 11 and a half now. And we have a name for building sets for brands. So if you think stages, expos, trade shows, build outs for like pop-up shops, that's really where we got our name. And then we've pivoted recently in the last year or so, and we really are honing in on the branding and brand campaigns for ads, for social, for web. So that's been a really great addition to what we offer. But yeah, it started out as a hobby. I was a brand new mom. My daughter was 6 months old. And I said, yeah, I'm going to have a website, and it's going to be called The Shift Creative.
I love that.
And, fast forward 11 years, this is where I am.
I love that. And so when you started this business, was this with a past partner as well?
Okay, so not initially.
Okay.
So me and my ex-husband, we actually were in the midst of, we had a coffee shop. So we owned a coffee shop, and we had that for over 3 years.
Okay.
So when my daughter was born, when she was 2 weeks old, we opened that coffee shop.
Wow.
And in that time, we also did real estate and flipped houses. But 6 months after my daughter was born, I started The Shift Creative. And in full transparency, it really was kind of I'm going to start something myself and see how well it does, because the coffee shop wasn't doing that great.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's see if I can be better. It's so bad to say. I was young. I was 23.
Okay. Wow.
And so I was like, you're not allowing me kind of in this business with the coffee shop. So I'm just going to do my own thing. And
I love it.
I want to be the best at it.
You did it.
Yeah.
So then from at that point, when was it? Was there a singular moment that you were like, oh shit, I'm actually onto something?
So you know what's so crazy with the creative world is you get little bits of that. You get those big moments, and then you're like, oh, maybe I have made it. And then it's a lot of small moments. Big moment, small moments. And I think that is a lot of the creative process. I think working with celebrities, we worked with Kylie Jenner. We've done stuff with Adele, big names like that, or Puma or Instacart, or the bigger the name, yes. But then at some point, it doesn't faze you really anymore. You're just kind of okay, yeah, that's a cool job. So I think you kind of get a little callous the longer you're in the industry. But to go back really quick to if I started with a partner, I did not start with him.
Okay.
But then probably 5 or 6 years in, he joined forces.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to make sure that I talked about that.
And what was it like finding that success on your own inside of your relationship?
I mean, I loved it.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm finally making money. It takes a long time to build a business and actually see that profit when it's not a digital offering, right? I'm not building trust necessarily on socials yet. It's more of they get to experience it, then it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
And that was a different time.
Yeah.
11 years ago.
Yeah.
So
is this pre Instagram being your primary?
Instagram, I definitely was posting on Instagram, but it was still in the blog age.
Okay.
So
Fire.
I was doing stuff for free, collaborations, just to get on blogs, to get exposure, because blogs were it. If you made it on a blog and they published you had published work on a blog that was well known, or in a magazine, it was there you go. And then that funneled in traffic to Instagram, right? So then as Instagram grew, that built my following, was getting on these publications.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely felt proud of myself. I was like, well, I'm getting hired.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Did that affect your
hobby.
relationship at the time in a good or bad way?
I think the more I grew and the more that I got successful, it definitely put a strain. I think my husband at the time definitely thought I was kind of getting consumed by social media.
Okay.
By what people thought.
Yeah.
By the success in and of itself. And he's not wrong.
Yeah. How did you navigate that
But I didn't
with
think
that being partially like the truth of throwing yourself into something new, but then there also being the reality of that it's kind of a negative in the relationship as well?
I think it's hard because when you are in a relationship, and especially women in relationships, you want to feel supported and loved by your spouse.
Yeah.
So when you feel a lack of support, it kind of creates a wedge in the relationship. And you start thinking to yourself, he doesn't get me. He doesn't understand me.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to see me succeed, or he must be jealous. There must be jealousy here because I'm succeeding and he's not.
Yeah.
Right. And so that kind of was my mindset for a while. And then I was like, why don't you join forces? Because he's so talented with construction.
Yeah.
And help build the sets.
Okay.
So we can take it to the next level and really blow this up.
Yeah.
And so then he did join forces. And that's a whole other
Wow.
That's a whole other, like, I mean, we can get into that too when he started working with me.
Yeah. How is in that time of you growing so much, throwing yourself into socials and finding that, I would probably call it passion. When you found that, how'd you navigate, not to get too woo, but how did you navigate still being like in your feminine energy while taking on so much responsibility?
I don't think I was in my feminine energy.
Not at all.
No.
Okay.
I think I was like, I'm hustling. I'm getting after it.
Yeah.
Very much of the mentality of like, if I don't do it, no one else will. And then also being a mom. So coming home, you know, feeling like, oh, I have to cook dinner. I have to have the house cleaned. Oh, my kids are now in school. And now I have 2 kids. So it's like, I felt like I had to do everything in the mom world and then everything in the work world. And if I don't do it, it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
So no, I don't feel like I operated in my feminine, even though I said I wanted the man to lead.
Yes. Okay.
I think I was so used to leading.
Okay.
I perhaps, to be fair to him, didn't know how to let him lead.
I think that is a common piece.
Very common.
I'm just so happy because so you are not only our first mom guest, which is super exciting, but you're the first guest that I have had that is not the husband or relationship, and instead talking about, just for everyone who's listening, to fast forward to the end to give you guys the juicy details, to talk to you about how a relationship didn't end up working out even after building a 7-figure brand together. So let's go back to the start.
Okay.
He came into your business.
Yes.
What was that like?
Honestly, I tell people it was like 80-20, 80% great, 20% not great.
Okay.
Because we had a lot of wisdom as far as like with our community, we could draw on people. We did ask questions. We were learning. We learned a lot about business through the coffee shop that didn't do that great.
Yep.
And so it's not like we didn't know anything. And at this point when he joined in, so we kind of did a contract, like a marriage contract, if you will, where it was like, this is my responsibility in the business. I'm responsible for design, anything aesthetic, and the business, running the operations. You are in charge of the construction, the structure. If anything that you do disrupts the design, you have to inform me. And then anything that I do that design-wise that would affect how you build it, I would inform you. But so we have to have that open lines of communication that helped us stay in our lane. So that was we did that pretty well. I think that what ends up happening, and what is also very common, is you just become really good roommates.
Yeah.
And really good business partners.
Yeah.
And so that was there without the passion, without the intimacy, without all that. And then I think for him as a man, he just felt like, I'm working for my wife now. You know, and yes, I'm attributing to this. I always was like, you're so talented, you're so amazing, you really are like what kind of like boosted us up, because I could be like, I want this thing to light up and swivel, and he would make it work.
Yeah.
We would stay there till 2 a.m. in the warehouse, like with all the employees, like probably not legally, like just you know, you're hustling, you're in the grind.
100%.
And when it's your husband, you're like, yeah, we got to get it done.
Yeah.
And he did that, and so he contributed a lot to Shift's success. And I felt like I really gave him words of affirmation in that regard. But again, as the man, I think he had this desire to do his own thing, to bring in income separate from me, so that he could contribute in another way. I was not against that. However, it did leave me in a situation where I was like, if you are in my business, you got to let me know, because I have to find someone else.
Right.
So it was kind of like this weird tension we felt.
Yeah. And as he grew in the business with the responsibilities of doing the construction and things like that, were there things behind the scenes that your guys' relationship kind of changed in terms of gender roles with him taking on all of that responsibility within the business?
I don't know if things changed because, like I said at the beginning, I was very like dominant already. Like I'm already taking care of the kids, or I'm already picking up the kids. And I don't know if it really did change much. I would love to hear what he would say.
Yeah.
But I think as we went to like more events or networking events, or I went to different, things I was invited to. Yes, he would like stay home with the kids, make sure that they got dinner, all of that. Yeah. So maybe there was more of that as I was more into the world, more into my industry.
Yeah. Do you feel like there was an element of demasculation in him taking over those things to allow you to grow?
I don't know if he would say that as far as with the kids. I think he felt that way maybe just working with me. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if it was the kids necessarily or like the household like roles. I think he just struggled. It's not that he didn't not like working together. Like we do work well. We're both very creative, talented. I think it's just he also would have felt better if he just had something else on the side that was bringing in more money. I think at the end of the day, it came down to the man being the provider, and he didn't feel like he was that.
Yeah. I feel like that's real. And probably a lot of the people that are listening are like, fuck, I want my man to be the provider in some ways, but then also want him to be at home watching the kids so that I can go out and do things. And I think that is really kind of a lot of the concept of the show, is talking about how it either doesn't work or does work. I'm curious, when you think back to that time, if there was a conversation that sticks out or anything in terms of experiences that you had to decide whether you were going to be able to continue growing the relationship or growing yourself.
There is a lot of moments like that.
Okay.
I think probably early on, I felt that way, if I'm just going to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
I think when you're married, and then also I want to bring in that I'm a Christian. So when you're a Christian too, you're young, it's very much like you can get conflicted with like the word submit. So like in the Bible, it says wives submit to your husbands. And now if you were just to take that one verse and you just isolate that verse, then it's like, oh, I got to do everything my husband, says. That's not what it means. However, like in the Christian circle, and me being young and navigating a successful business, I did get caught up in like, what's my role? Like, do I need to dream less? Dream smaller to make you be able to go do your dreams? Like, what's right? What's wrong? I was very conflicted. I didn't really know where to land on that. And then when that starts to happen, you start to battle resentment.
Yes.
So then I'm like, so I can't be who I am. I can't dream big enough because you will feel less of a man. And if you feel less of a man, then I'm not doing something biblically right. I'm not a good wife. And it's this huge cycle, right? And I remember mentioning like, oh, I want to start a podcast, or I want to, write a book, or this is a long time ago. And he had said, like, calm down. Like, you don't need to do all the things, and maybe there was a part of what he was saying that was true, but as a partner, you want your spouse to be like, you know what? I believe that you can do that. And I think that podcast that's on your heart is going to blow up.
Yeah.
And I think people need to hear the book that you're going to write, Alexis, because your story is powerful. And you know what? Right now, we are really busy with the kids and with the business. So why don't we sit down and discuss what that would look like? What would that look like? What would need to give for you to be able to write a book right now?
Yeah.
What would we be sacrificing for you to go all in on a podcast right now? And I think what happens is most married couples, they don't have that conversation.
Yeah.
Instead, they get a little defensive, they feel their ego, or they feel like they're getting rejected, and they're just like, oh, you're always doing something.
Yeah.
You always are, it's on to the next. And then it makes you feel like shut down and, rejected. And so I think it's so powerful to be able to say, to have the conversation, to ask the questions. Because when you ask the questions, who knows? Okay, we'll start the podcast in 6 months.
100%.
We'll start it in a year.
And as the resentment grew, how did that look? What was that like in your business, trying to keep things afloat?
Oh man, it started being like we were barely talking at the warehouse. We didn't talk. It would just be, I was like disrespectful for sure.
Okay. a little sassy.
Yes, I have a big personality. I'm a strong woman, and he's more passive and more reserved.
Yeah.
And so I would just be like, okay, we'll get that done, or okay, well, you didn't communicate that, and that's not, obviously it's not right at me, but that's how it started manifesting, right? Was me being like, I was being disrespectful because I didn't feel loved.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the cycle there.
I'm really curious for everyone who's listening right now who might be in a similar place where they're building a little bit of resentment. There's maybe a little bit of resentment there, no matter really what it's even about. I'm curious if you have any tips for relationships or people that are listening to this that might be in that similar place of how you wished maybe that things would have been navigated.
I think first and foremost, it's death to ego.
Okay.
Death to ego.
Give it a funeral.
I always say, like, if two people are willing to work on things at the same time, any relationship can thrive and work. I really believe if one person's working on it and the other person's not, it's not going to work. It's both people. So both people need to put to death their ego and their pride. I've heard this the saying, like, fall on your own sword. So take accountability and responsibility for what you can own first.
Yeah.
Many times when you do that, the other person feels safe to let down their guard and share as well. I would say counseling. I would say wisdom from your community. Yeah. If it's in a church. We did a lot of that. I think what happened was doing it and then not applying the tools. So it's like you have a leak at your house. And there's a leak and there's all this water coming out. And you're saying, there's a leak. You could see it. And you have it, but you're not using the tool. You have a tool, but you're not using it to fix the leak. So you can have everything at your disposal, but if you're not willing and ready to fix the leak, you're just going to continue to be in a flood.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one thing to say, I'm acquiring all this wisdom. I'm going to listen to these podcasts. I'm going to seek help. Well, what are you actually doing? Are you applying it? Right. So that leads me to, like, accountability. Who's holding you accountable? You have to have people in your life that are holding you accountable and that know your marriage. Who knows your marriage? Yeah. Who knows what you guys are struggling with? Because I think a lot of people, when me and my ex got separated, were like, and I'm a very open person. I had told my pastor's wife, I wanted to be separated. Yeah. But I think that they didn't realize how bad it was.
Okay. Or how serious you were. What do you wish that more men in that example or that scenario, what do you wish that more men understood? That
complacency kills marriages.
Complacency within the relationship or within, like, personal development?
Both.
Yeah.
It's all the same. Yeah. If you are not striving to be the best version of yourself personally, that's going to affect your marriage. Yes. If you are not intentional in your marriage, it's going to affect your marriage. I think a lot of men, this is a blanket statement, coast. They think if we're not fighting all the time, we're good. If we're not, XYZ, it's not that bad. It could be better. It's not that bad. My ex-husband literally said in counseling, he was asked a question, how bad on a scale from 1 to 10 do you think your marriage is right now? His response was, well, I mean, we're not on cloud 9, but it's not awful. And in that same setting, I was entertaining DMs from men. Okay. No, yeah, I'm being honest. Yeah. I was, like, emotionally, like, feeling like attracted. Like, I was getting attention from men and I wasn't engaged in my marriage. So that's how bad it was. Like, I was already like, oh, well, other people think I'm funny. Other people think I'm pretty. Yeah. Other people, but you're sitting here like, it's not that bad, our marriage. You have to be self-aware.
Do you think that comes from, like, a place of guilt or avoidance of not realizing or not acknowledging that it's horrible?
I think it's guilt, but I think it's denial.
Yeah.
I think it's denial too. I think also when you're married young, you can maybe feel like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to lead. Yeah. I don't know how to be a good husband. Yeah. And I think there is a level of pride. Like, I don't want to go to someone for accountability and ask for help. Yeah. I would say that being proactive looks like, even if you have to put it in your phone, I'm taking my wife on a date. every other Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. Even if it's being intentional, I'm going to write down a list of questions to ask her. I think that in marriage, and I was married for over 10 years.
Okay. Wow.
So this wasn't a short marriage.
This wasn't a short one. Yeah, at all.
Yeah, together for almost 12, 2 kids under our belt, multiple businesses. So it is the intentionality over everything.
Yeah.
How many times do you and Becca go to dinner and it's like, oh, it's a little quiet. Maybe you're just talking about business. We have to learn how to ask better questions to continue to learn our spouse.
100%.
Because we are growing so much, and if we're not careful, we're growing apart and not together.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Becca and I actually had done a couples therapy session, and I remember from it, one of the things that we took away was that when you work together, so commonly we're sitting at a table like this. It's almost like a boardroom. And that then it's so common to have a full work day. You're on Zoom meetings all day, you're talking, managing, and then you go out to dinner. You're like, perfect, let's go out, a little date night. But then you find yourself at a table still sitting right across from each other. And just the slight shift of actually sitting on the same side of the table and experiencing it together rather than dissecting it, looking right at each other, because the environmental change is actually really powerful.
Couldn't agree more.
When you guys were trying out the counseling, when you were trying it all, did you know that it was done?
No. Well, there was one point, there was multiple points, right? So, because, there's not just one breaking point in a marriage.
Yeah.
The breaking point are the small points throughout the whole marriage that you guys never fix.
Yeah.
Right? It's the root issues. But there was one point when I was like talking about like the emotional, like where I was like entertaining, it was one person, but entertaining this attention from another man.
Okay.
That we were in my ex asked me to go to counseling.
Okay.
I was kind of done already. This was at the 7-year mark.
Okay.
So
it was his idea.
At this point, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
First round.
At that point, yes, but I will say that I had asked for it for a while.
Yeah.
Before anything other, I had asked for counseling. I had asked for help. I had asked for community.
Okay.
And then it wasn't until bombs are dropping, and I had told him that someone was DMing me.
Okay.
So.
He knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I told him, I confessed it.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
In this therapy session?
No, prior.
So he knew.
Yeah.
And it was still not that bad.
No, not.
What's the timeline?
That was a different counseling session.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. But
I was like, fuck, it's bad.
You're like, dude, wake up. No, but kind of wake
Honestly,
up.
the denial.
No, so yeah, there was like a few different counseling sessions, but there was this one was after he knew about I'll call it an emotional affair, sure, if you will. He knew about that. He had also confessed other things to me that aren't really part of my story, so I'll leave it. But he had addiction as well.
Okay.
And so with that, he was like, "Will you go to counseling?" And we were living separate. This is year 7. We were living separate already, and I didn't really want to. But I said, okay, because again, a lot of it has to do with my faith too. Like I didn't believe in divorce. Like I wanted to make it work. I had 2 kids. So in that counseling session I didn't want to go. But then as I kept going, it changed a lot for us. And your point about going to the restaurant and sitting on the same side, in our counseling session, our counselor actually wanted us to go to the Cheesecake Factory. Okay. And he was like, go to the Cheesecake Factory and I want you to go and get a dessert that maybe you guys both wouldn't have chosen. Okay. It's just like a random cheesecake that you wouldn't have ever chosen. And I was like, this sounds so freaking stupid. Like, I'm not even joking. I was like, this is dumb. And I was like, okay, we'll do this. Right. And he was like, the point of it is because I want you guys to experience something different together that you haven't experienced before and share how do you like this? Yeah. Just the smallest, simplest thing. Okay. So we went to Cheesecake Factory and we got a carrot cake cheesecake. I wouldn't have chosen that. Yeah. I'm an Oreo cheesecake girl myself. Okay. So we have this cheesecake. I'm like, this is good. We actually liked it. We're talking, we're sharing, we're being silly. He wanted us to feed each other the cheesecake. Yeah. And we did it. I felt a little stupid, but then I started liking it. Like, feed me the cheesecake. Right? What is that doing? It's just creating intimacy. Yeah. It's creating shared experience. It's getting back down. Now, did that eradicate his addiction? Did that eradicate my, thirst for attention? No. Yeah. But what it did was it brought us back to, we're partners.
Yeah. It's a good compromising exercise too, because that freaking cheesecake menu is huge. You gotta pick one fucking
Like if
slice.
you hop in a cheesecake, I mean, it's like a book. It is like the Bible.
It is.
It's like the cheesecake Bible. So and so after that, so another word I would say is really pursuing your wife. So I know my marriage ended in divorce ultimately. Excuse me. But during that time, I really did feel pursued by him. He had came to our house. He had like all these movie posters like in the lawn. He had a big screen, a blow up screen. He had all my favorite snacks, and he had given me this invite, put it in my mail with flowers, and was like, "Hi."
This is the ex.
Yeah, my ex-husband.
Wow. Okay.
He's like, "Hi, I'm so and so. What's your name? Like us, we're starting over. And we did, and we did for 4 years. We really, really did.
Wow.
But this is what I'm saying about complacency, is it will drive a wedge.
Yeah.
So then what happens? Same patterns. Same things pop back up. Same, we're not getting help. Same, you don't think it's that bad.
Yeah.
Same, and then it's like, I'm struggling. And so 8 months prior to the separation, I said, you need to get counseling, like you need help, like, or something, a mentor, something, like it's not working, I was like, I know you're not happy, I'm not happy, something's not right. And so I decided, and I don't know if this is masculine energy, feminine energy, I just decided like I'm gonna let him lead. I'm gonna pull back, and I'm just gonna say, what are you gonna do with this information I'm giving you?
Yep.
Okay. So I did that, and he did nothing with it. So for 8 months, it was just, we were just roommates living. We started living in separate bedrooms, and eventually I asked for a separation.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
then we ultimately divorced. So it's just, I think that if he would have pursued more, then we probably would have still been married.
Yeah.
I believe that. And I think that that's just the power of intention.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm actually curious if we can zoom in specifically on the sleeping together, like not sexually, but like sleeping together as a form of intimacy.
Okay.
How important do you feel like that is? Or do you feel like there's another aspect of that as you grow a high pressure career that your sleep becomes more valuable? What are your thoughts?
I think two people that are married, as long as you guys both agree and are on the same page with it, then I think you guys can make your own rules. I feel that way with sex too. So it's like, let's just say you're like, I'm in the freaking throes of this podcast that I'm launching, and I literally just need a good headspace. Like, do you mind if I'm sleeping here or whatever? And both you guys agreed on that, then I'm like, cool, you guys agreed on that. I wouldn't say forever.
Yeah.
I would have a deadline on it.
Second, like redo. What do you think about relationships that don't sleep together?
Ever? Like
they have separate bedrooms.
I just feel like there's a wedge there.
Are they like divorced without the divorce word?
I just feel like, where's the intimacy?
Yeah.
You
guys,
like
quick head and then go back to your own bedroom.
Yeah, no, I don't. I feel like that's like are we at summer camp doing that? No, I think you need to have that intimacy.
I fully agree with you.
So I think if there's a time, like I said, and you guys agreed to it, then have that just for these 2 days or whatever. But don't let it become a pattern, because then ultimately what's going to happen? Where are you going to get your sexual gratification? Yeah. Even if you had sex real quick in the room and then went, come on, let's be real. Yeah. One of you guys are watching porn. One of you guys are doing something else. It's continuing to go separate instead of together.
Yes, 100%.
Does that make sense?
100%. Do you look back and wish that anything within the relationship, especially having been together for so long, where when you guys got together, was it pre-entrepreneurship?
It was.
So with all of that growth, do you look back and wish that there would have been things that were done differently on your part or on his part?
100%. Yeah. And we're really good. Like, we are really good co-parents. Now. Oh, yeah.
So
and
cool.
we're like really, like, I wouldn't say like super close, but we're like really solid. Like, my son's birthday's tomorrow. We're celebrating together. He came over for Easter. So it's not volatile. It was the first year.
Okay.
What I would say, I think when you're young and ambitious, you want to do everything. And I think that we took on too much too soon.
Yeah.
I mean, coffee shop, first year of our marriage, and flipping houses, just had a baby. I start my business. We were trying to do it all.
Yeah.
And you lose touch with your spouse. You can have all the money in the world, but when you lose touch with your spouse, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not. I would go back and say, hey, we don't need all the money right now. Slow it down.
Yeah.
enjoy this time.
Mm-hmm.
Get to know each other.
Yeah. I feel like Becca and I are actually in like a weird place of that coming kind of back to the forefront after hustling and chasing so hard for the last couple of years.
You have to like reconvene.
Yeah, you have to reconvene and like reprioritize what it's all worth or like what it's all for. Because I think that we, living in such a capitalist society and everything is so transactional, I think it can become so business partnery. And I think that there is something beautiful about that. I think that a lot of what this podcast is talking to are like the business partnerships that are able to make it last. But I think that it's so interesting, and there's so many different chapters where we still haven't had children yet, but we know that that's something that we want in the future. And it feels like right now it's the time of thinking, okay, I think we should reprioritize things so that we can go into this next chapter with a lot more alignment than right now feeling like we're throwing a lot of, spaghetti at the wall trying to launch this and then launch that. And then really like the behind the scenes of it that most people don't see is like the stress of all the things that don't work. Because I think with social media, you're similar of that. Most people you run into and they're like, oh my God, you're doing great. Like everything is so good. Haven't had a horrible day in like 8 years.
You're making all this money. Life must be amazing.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like,
what about the investment that didn't work?
Right. What about all the freaking stress? What about, sleeping in that other bed? Because I was thinking about this podcast.
Yeah, right.
All the shit, right? So I think that now we're intentionally coming together of what is phase 2 now that you build it. And I think that really does come from a place of privilege most of the time in being able to say, okay, we have the money. We have the business, we have the team, we have the like logistics of sustainability coming. Now what do we want? Because when we started the business, what we wanted was like, a lot of it was flashy bullshit.
Absolutely.
It was like, oh my God, we want to move to LA and I'm trying to get a Range Rover and
blah,
blah, blah. And then it's like, you get it.
Then what? You're
and
still
then you're
empty.
like, damn, I'm empty as fuck.
Right? You're empty.
And I think I'm curious for you when you look back and you think about the highs that you reached with the partner. Were there times where there was stuff happening where you thought it was going to be this amazing high and in actuality it made you feel even more empty?
I think I felt more empty because I don't know if I felt like he shared in the success with me though.
Oh,
that was the difference with me.
Okay.
Is I don't know if we both were like, we made it. I think it was more like I felt that way. And then he was more just not on the same page. So I think it's a little different. Like where you and Becca, it seems, I don't know. It seems like you guys are both kind of like wanting the same things.
Yeah.
But I think me and him had different goals.
What about like, let's say you and him, you're working on a set, you deliver the set, it's to a big client.
Oh yeah.
Is there like,
he would
oh
be
my
stoked.
God, we
I mean,
fucking
like,
did that.
like Kylie Jenner.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We like had to like lift a whole set over her freaking gate. All her cars were lined up. We were like, I can't even believe we're here. You know, like it was dope.
Okay.
Going there and then leaving, like grabbing like pizza and like, it's like those moments were like, dang, like this is cool. Like, no, for sure. I think we definitely felt that way. I think it's just momentarily. Like it's that's not really it. Like that's not really what success looks like. I think success looks like enjoying your partner and intimately knowing them and enjoying enjoying the benefits of that success. I don't know if that moment is success.
Yeah.
I don't. Is that making sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm curious because I feel like in the past couple of years, we've in our relationship chased these big like launches or sale campaigns, things like that. That relatively are just like one small aspect of work that you do together. But then it can be the kind of thing where you work so hard and then it happens and then it's done so quickly, and then you're like, am I better off now? Like. Maybe it was a monetary gain and you're like, does that do anything for me? Or like absolutely nothing? Or am I feeling more excited? Maybe not. Maybe you're actually like feeling more stressed. And it's interesting, I feel like in our relationship, because we've worked towards those things and realized that they are so not important, I guess, in the intimacy department, in the actual love. And so I feel like now after chasing that for so long, we're in a place of coming to the surface and being like, okay, I think we need to find some priorities that aren't just launches and work, because it does get a little bit like boring, I guess, if you will, if that's what you're working on, especially when you do both have your own thing. So you're working with clients, you're working with, brands or whatever. So you're getting that cup filled elsewhere as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would probably give you validation, probably give Becca validation outside of your guys' marriage, like people on Instagram or people in your DMs or people on the podcast, like, oh, this is great. Like, what's hard is that when that happens, then it's like you either seek less validation from your spouse, or you crave it more. And if they're not giving it to you more, then it's like, why aren't you giving me this validation? Even if you're not thinking of it like that subconsciously, consciously, subconsciously, you might be like, see, like I'm getting this validation from all these other people, but they're not doing that for me, you know? And
100%.
then that creates a disconnect as well.
Yeah.
Or you mentioned like, how do you guys relate? Like, how did me and my ex relate? Like when it was, you know, we had this big, you know, Kylie Jenner thing. Yeah. But what about when I like put my heart and soul into something and I'm sacrificing family time and marriage time and it doesn't do well? Yeah. Because then I would feel like guilty, like, man, I like put all this time and energy and it didn't really do that well. Yeah. But I sacrificed the time away from my family. Right. So it's like both sides of the coin. It all goes back to intentionality. I 100% believe that. Yeah. I think complacency, if anyone was like, why did excuse me, if anyone said, why did your marriage end? I can't even talk. I would say complacency. I really would. And even though other people would look at it and be like, well, no, it was this. No, it was that. No, it was this. Well, it's because we weren't intentional with each other.
I'm curious, even as me and a lot of the guys who might be listening to this they wouldn't maybe identify as complacent, but definitely would identify or like have been told that they're more reserved. It's more like laid back. Maybe passive isn't a word that's used with them, but probably, you know, about them. What would be your tips for the guys in that sort of relationship of how to navigate being with like a very powerful, bold woman?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because my ex-husband, I mean, like he's all those adjectives. Yeah, I would say.
I need to get him on this show.
Dude, I know. Well, he's reserved and passive. And I don't know if he's going to be on the show. Yeah. But which was another thing. Okay, I think it's this. I want us to have a word to the wives though too.
Okay, please.
I think it's like allowing your husbands to be who they are. Because my fault was wanting my reserved, passive, calm husband to be like me, to be outgoing, to be the life of the party. Oh, and then now I start thinking you're boring. You're this, right? And then now I'm thinking all the things that brought stability and security to my life, I'm looking at them as a negative, right? So the word to the wives is let your husbands be who they are and champion them and their own gifts, not in trying to put or project your giftings on them.
Yeah. In terms of trying to change them.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that, is there a secondary piece of that though that comes with, even if it means that it's not together?
I am for marriage.
Okay.
I am for marriage. I'm divorced, but I am still for marriage. I think anything that you can do to keep your marriage intact, to do that.
Let's say they're not married yet. Let's say it's still boyfriend or fiance material, and you're listening to this. You're like, wow, Alexis, that really hits. My boyfriend is super freaking, you know, maybe lazy and like very just like down for this like mediocrity of like they have a job, they're probably going to get a better job, but they're not looking to do that much, and they're really happy just like playing poker with their friends and hanging out.
I think if it's not aligned, if you guys aren't aligned, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we date for potential and we're like, yeah, but like you could do this, you could, and then the wife or the woman typically is like, I like, we could build a business. We could do this together. Let me help you. Yeah. You cannot dream bigger dreams for your partner more than they do for themselves.
Yes.
You cannot heal them more than they want to be healed.
Yeah.
Period. And so if you're looking at your boyfriend or any partner, right, and you're seeing these traits, you have to say to yourself, where am I headed?
Yeah.
And where are they headed? And are we on the same freaking ship? And if we're not, it's time to get off.
Yeah.
And now, married, goals change all the time, right? But you have to have the same foundation. If someone's not ambitious and they don't want a life on, you know, they don't want to do the podcast and they don't want to do this, like, and you're okay with that because they have their other ambitions, amazing. But if they just are cool with the floating by, but you're not, that's going to cause big issues.
100% agree.
Big issues.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it makes you feel like you have to dumb yourself down or dim your light so that they feel more comfortable.
Yeah. What about for the women who are listening that have been married and they have, similar to you, they've had a relationship that's gone pre-entrepreneurship, now spanning into entrepreneurship. And let's say their business is taking off and they went from making $4K a month in a job and their family was living at, between 5 and 10K a month combined. And now all of a sudden they're doing 10K days. They're making, high 5-6 figures a month. Their business is blowing up. And the husband wants it, but they're also very okay with how it was. Do you feel like that's a scenario that you see working out?
I could see it still working out as long as, because as you were first starting the question, I was thinking with money also comes access to help. And so I was also thinking like if he was okay with how it is, but maybe she's not, but maybe there's more of a compromise of like, well, maybe they get more help for their kids if they had kids.
Yeah.
Or maybe they outsource more like workers to like take on like admin and other things, and then so that the wife does have more time with the husband. I think there's ways to go about it that if it's blowing up, you could still be very intentional with your spouse that might not want it as much because of your resources. Yeah. But again, it takes that mindset.
And the lack of complacency.
Yes.
100%. For all of the people that are listening to this and they're thinking, my relationship feels a little bit similar. And maybe I've been thinking about like separating. I've been thinking about going to therapy. Were there any things that you look back at and you're like, man, that while it didn't save the marriage, it was so impactful?
I think counseling 1000% is impactful because you take that with you even into your next relationship. I'm sure everyone has heard it said, wherever you go, there you are, right? Wherever you go. I've
never heard that.
You never have?
No.
Okay. So what that means is in any relationship, you are you. If you don't do your own work, there you are. All your insecurities, all your issues, all your trauma that's been undealt with, it's still there and it's still going to pop up. If it's not with that husband or at that partner, it's with the next one. So you have to do the work yourself.
100%.
In order to thrive in any relationship. Me and my ex-husband just had a conversation about this. I think like Monday, where I was driving down here and we're talking about dating. We're like really open. Okay. And, especially as a Christian, it's harder to find like a guy who's Christian and successful and I'm attracted to, it's like way harder. And we always say like, we do kind of say like if we would have tried harder, like if we would have really like just given it that one extra effort. Yeah. And so I think the word here is make sure that you do everything that you possibly can before you exit the relationship. Yeah. So that you can leave and you know that you did. Does that make sense? Because you don't want to live in regret. Yeah. I don't know if me and him live in regret, but I do think that we've grown a lot separated so that we can see clearly now the areas that I failed him, that he has failed me. And like I said at the beginning, it is the death to ego. Yeah. It is being willing to say, I'm wrong. Yeah. And I think that the male ego is so big and it commonly, like even for myself, like I think it commonly comes out in expressions of emotions that aren't like exactly what you'd think. Comes out as like aggression or jealousy or like insecurity, rage and things like that. And it's actually interesting to think about Becca and I's relationship of having totally had periods of having that be much more like palpable and finding what felt like solutions to mitigate that. Like even when I remember coming into her business and we had both built our businesses and they were like both very, good, successful financial businesses, but her business had all of the sustainability pieces and the systems that were like actually ready to become a brand, not just a high profit freelance business. And I remember coming in and we scaled up. She did a big launch and we were like, okay, this is great. But it felt like it was all on her. Like every single thing the next day, no dollar is being made if it's not from her. And so at that time, I remember being like, okay, I got to figure out, we have products out now. I have to figure out a way to me making money on these so that I can actually fulfill some of that providership. I don't even think that's a word. Yeah. And then I remember
coming, building, and then actually coming up to the first launch that ever my side of things were at the forefront. And we were working really hard. We do it. And then it's actually that empty feeling again of like, that wasn't it either. And so I think that where that's going is that iteration continues and you're not just going to find it, but that if you keep on working towards it, you can find it.
Absolutely.
What are you looking for now though?
And I want to say really quickly there, I also believe that a relationship that has like a North Star, that has like a foundation on God would be more successful. I know that's controversial.
Yeah.
And even though like I would have said that my relationship was godly and faith-based.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why we like stuck it out long. But I think if you really are like seeking things of God, it takes your eyes off of this world and the things that are a vapor.
Yeah.
The money and all of it.
Yeah.
It's all a vapor. Our life is a vapor. It can be gone like that. Faith allows you to look at things that aren't seen. And I think that it gives also hope for marriage.
Faith.
And so when you don't have that, you're just looking at each other. Two people who are flawed humans that are just in a cycle over and over. But I think when we bring in God into the picture and you say, we don't know what the heck we're doing.
Yeah.
But you do. You know our story. You know the end of it. It's like watching a movie. He's already watched your life on the movie. He knows what the credits are going to be at the end.
Yeah.
He's just letting you walk it. But if we can actually tap into him as a source, I think that things in marriage would be a lot easier. I think that there's also intentionality spiritually that needs to happen, so that intentionality together.
Yeah. In terms of like
happens.
surrendering,
community, like I had mentioned, being in the Word of God, worship, prayer, all of that.
Yeah.
It's just like another relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like when we go to church, sometimes I think that there's like another word of also the vulnerability, because I think that the flip side of the coin of the, it's all doing good at the therapy session is also maybe some avoidance of vulnerability if you really think about it, because probably in that time, if your ex would have been asked that question again and like looked at in his eye, there probably would have been some sort of like bodily sigh or like deep breath in or something, and then it would have gone deeper, and it would have probably gone more vulnerable, and maybe a tear would have been shed and been like, dude, I'm coming to you in this vulnerable state, but like things aren't that good.
Yes.
And my experience going to church in the relationship and the family and building the kingdom being so powerful and so at the forefront of what you're doing and the intentionality of it, I think is really beautiful. And I think is actually a really good ritual for relationships to come together and be vulnerable, even if it's acknowledging, hey, like what we've been doing has been, shitty to each other, or it's not working, or we're prioritizing, like Becca and I sometimes do come to that, like we're totally prioritizing money over each other. And those things are real. And it takes commonly like some real discomfort to get to that and finish that conversation. But I think that the faith and vulnerability that come commonly together is really powerful.
I agree. Because imagine if you do bring that faith component into your relationship, anyone who's listening here, it's coming together like in prayer. Imagine you're like, you don't have to hold hands, but let's just say you are, your eyes are closed, you're holding hands with the person you love, and you're like crying out. Yeah. Like you mentioned in surrender, like help us because things aren't working, or we don't feel as close as we want to be. Yeah. That is intimacy. Intimacy isn't just sex. There's a spiritual intimacy there. And imagine if, like, let's just say Becca had a hard launch, or it didn't pan out, and you came to her and you were like, man, let me pray for you. I think she'd be like, whoa, that's another level of intimacy where it's like, I care for you so much. I like want to be here with you in all ways, emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually, I feel like it's just it's a beautiful picture of a man like loving his wife. Yeah. But your question was, what am I looking for currently? Yeah. And it really is a godly man. Like I say that, and I sometimes I teeter, but I because there's other things that are important to me. It's not just godly. I do want them to be financially stable. I need to be attracted to them. You know, I'm not just feeling like, you're godly, cool, you go to church.
Yeah.
It's more than just going to church. As actually that's not even part of it. It's like, do you actually like have a relationship with God?
Yeah.
And there's the ambition, you know, because I also would say, let's just say there was a guy who wasn't really making that much money right now, but he was godly and he was emotionally available and he was all these things, but he had the ambition to be better. I would be fine with that too. I'd be like, cool, I could see that you have a plan of where you're going.
Yeah.
You might not be where I am or maybe what I think that I want, but again, money, it comes and goes.
It absolutely does.
It comes and goes. I would rather want like a relationship that I feel like secure in, and I can be myself. I can laugh and be weird. Like, I'm super weird.
And I think that the skills though that you build, like even being able to be weird on camera and like make people come along with you and be a part of your journey, it also shows that like the money truly means nothing, because it could all go away and in a year you could literally just recreate it all.
Yep, exactly.
And like it's just a fluid currency that's just shifting. It's a shift creatively over there and then creatively over there.
Shifting over. Shift happens.
It
is. It's a plug for my podcast.
Yes.
No, but yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think our relationships are our most important asset.
When you think about this next partner that you're looking for, that is probably going to just fall into your lap somehow.
We'll see.
Are they an entrepreneur? Is there ever going to be a time where you come into business together again?
I would love that.
Okay.
I'm not against it at all. A lot of people in my circle, they always think that I will marry an entrepreneur or like have a relationship with an entrepreneur, just because it's like how I'm wired. But I'm open to like, I'm not open to only entrepreneurs, you know, like I could see that happening. And I am the type of woman that's like, oh, we should do this. Like, we could build this together. That would be such a good idea. Or I can see giftings in people. So I can be like, oh, you're really talented at XYZ. I'm talented at this. Or even if it's not me, I could just see, like, even if it's not us together, I can see me building someone else up, like, and encouraging them in their gifts. And maybe they're doing their entrepreneur thing and I'm doing my own, you know?
If you were to be in that specific scenario, let's say a year and a half, 2 years out from now, you find this amazing guy. He's godly. He is, you know, really caring for you, maybe even you and your children, all of this stuff. And he is at a place where he's had a job or a career. He's stable, but he's ready to throw himself into entrepreneurship, especially with you kind of pushing. How would you navigate doing that again and not falling back into the same kind of place of feeling like he isn't providing and that you are leading, even if that's something that you kind of want to do?
Would it be him doing his own business?
Sure.
Okay, so it wouldn't be with me.
No.
I think that if it wasn't with me though, like I could still, I'm a really good cheerleader. Okay. So like I think that's different, because in my marriage, it was more like he was trying to do his entrepreneur thing and it wasn't really working, and then joined forces with me. Yeah. And I think that created some friction. Yeah. Whereas if someone was doing their own journey, I think I'd be more prepared now. I would be like, okay, there's going to be some late nights. We're back to hustling. We're back to like figuring things out. I think I would have more grace, actually. I think it's less about them and more about me too. It's my mindset. Yeah. You know, I'd have more grace, more compassion. Things are harder. What can I get you for dinner? Like what? And then again, the intentionality of me having conversations too. Like, hey, I really miss you. Like, can we plan a date soon? Yeah. I know you're really busy with the new business, but our connection's important to me. Totally. It's that communication. But you know what we do instead? You're so busy. Okay, yeah, the podcast is so much more important than me. That's how we say it. Yeah. That's not vulnerability. Yeah. Right? Really what we're saying is, I miss you.
It's all about communication.
And I think, and vulnerability. And I think that if I was in that relationship a year and a half from now, I would even grow. I have been grown so much more. I'm really focused on my self-development. I would be able to sit and say, I know you're busy. I know you're stressed. How can I help you? Or, I know you're busy. I know you're stressed. How can we carve out time for each other? Yes. I don't want to miss this. I don't want to miss what God is showing us about ourselves or about you or about what we can be in this busy season. You know, like, I think it's just asking better questions. Yeah. And being open to hearing the answer and supporting your spouse the best way that you can. Yeah. You know, and you had actually asked me too, you were like, what would be your word for the husbands? And I said, oh, I have a word for the wives.
Yeah.
Even a word for the husbands is, even if you're reserved and passive and all of that, it is taking that time. Do a notes section in your phone. My wife, okay, her favorite flower. I know it sounds like it would be common sense. It's not.
Yeah.
Favorite flower, favorite candy. Put it in your calendar. Maybe like once a month, you have a little reminder. And it's like, send Becca C's candy. You know how big of a impact that makes? You know, just that little thought. That did not take you long.
Yeah.
You went online, you made the call. It took you less than 5 minutes, right? And it just makes your partner feel loved.
Yeah.
And women want to feel loved.
100%.
Right? What about a car wash? I noticed Becca's car was dirty. You know, I'm gonna put it in my calendar on my phone. I'm just gonna have it at the house. I'm not even gonna tell her.
A car wash.
Car wash. A detail guy comes to the house, cleans it all out.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to worry about it now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
She's feeling cared for.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that even if you're not bringing in, if you're not the breadwinner of the house, and you are kind of feeling like, oh, like she's making more money than I am. Those gestures, those make her feel so loved for, so cared for. It recreates the intimacy, and the money isn't. You don't even no, we're not even thinking of that. You're not making money.
Yeah.
We're just feeling cared for and loved for.
Yeah.
That's all we want.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
So just those intentional moments.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. Yes! I feel like this was so fun. We got to sit down. It's like a freaking speed dating set over here.
I know.
But
no, that's what we need to do next.
A speed dating.
We'll just have all the guys come. I'm like,
it'll be like a casting couch of podcasts. Well, thank you so much for doing this. For everyone who's listening, both men and women, maybe even a relationship together, where can people find you?
The Shift Creative is my business account, and then my personal is Alexis Andra.
There we go. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of the Profitable Husband Podcast. If you're ready to step up, support your wife, and build real wealth together, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. For more strategies on business, marketing, and becoming the strongest leader in your household, follow me on Instagram @WillowKai. And if today's episode hit home, share it with another man who needs to hear this. We're building a movement one profitable husband at a time. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next episode.